Okay, thanks for that great info. And it's awesome to have my two guests here with me, Travis and Carissa. Thanks for joining the discussion. Before we get started, I want to remind everybody, hit the Q&A button to engage with our speakers and provide feedback and questions. Travis, let's open it up with you. Can you tell us a little about Birdeye and your focus on hospitality and the hospitality market?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, it's fabulous to be here. Super excited to chat with yourself and Carissa. I think we have a ton of great stuff to cover today. So at Birdeye, we sit really firmly in the middle of kind of this customer experience management space. And we do that with a mission to help our customers create connections that matter. And so we're working with 60,000 companies around the country and the world. And hospitality is a really natural home for us because even going back to kind of the dawn of restaurants and hosting, it was all about building relationships, building ongoing relationships with customers to have them coming back again and again and again. And right now, with the state of the world and kind of all the uncertainty we're seeing, it's really become paramount for Birdeye to help restaurants and others in the hospitality industry to, deliver on their brand promise, deliver on exceptional food, beverage, and dining experiences, and ultimately to strengthen and deepen those connections. And our role in that is to present the technology that allows our customers to go out and do what they do best and not have to worry about, all of the stuff that enables you to do it at scale. That's our work.
Awesome. Thanks for that. I want a little, Carissa, want to learn a
Yes.
little bit about Cunningham, Cunningham restaurant groups. We talked a little bit before we went live. You've got quite a collection of restaurants and brands. I think you mentioned you have 34 different restaurants and 14 different brands. You're in Kentucky, Indiana, Ohio. How do you guys manage this with so many customers and so many concepts?
Well, originally we were doing a lot of it manually before we came to Birdeye, and that was taxing on our team, on the marketing team, because we were looking at all of the sites, aggregating all of the reviews, making sure that the reviews were getting responded to in the various restaurants. We do expect the restaurants to respond to their reviews, but we had no easy way to assign them or to report on them. So we were doing all of that manually prior to coming over to Birdeye.
So I know in New York City, I've got a bunch of restaurants, and we're always fielding. There's Yelp reviews, there's Open Table reviews, there's all these different things coming through, like you mentioned, and it is really hard to manage, especially with multi-brands. So everything is being centralized now into one area for you to respond and communicate with your guests using Birdeye.
Yes, and the other nice thing is it's providing the visibility for our management teams, our managers within the restaurants, our regional managers of various regions, and then at the corporate level, we're able to see not only those individual reviews and the responses that go along with them, but then also how are we tracking? How are we tracking for each concept brand and the restaurant group as a whole for reviews in general? One of the things that I came from some other industries, and one of the biggest questions that I got coming into the restaurant side was, do we need to advertise? Do we need to advertise more online? And I said, no, honestly, your online reviews are advertising for you, but you've got to manage them to the best of your ability. You've got to be able to respond to them and engage those guests. That's where you're going to get the strength in that brand recognition.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. Well, let's get into our topic of the session. It's the experience economy and driving customer connections. Travis, talk to me a little bit about how a company with multiple concepts, tons of locations, can leverage you guys over at Birdeye to help them communicate, engage, keep communicating with their customers, good feedback, bad feedback, indifferent. What's Birdeye doing to help these multi-unit operators?
All right, I'll tell you, but you're gonna have to pardon the pun. So our recipe for success here is, we think it's all about, three legs of the stool, right? First, you want to be
Yep.
found, then you want to be chosen, then you want to be the best. And that's true whether you have one restaurant or, an entire collection of different brands you're managing. Because ultimately, people haven't changed since the dawn of time. They want to interact with those they trust. They want to have a rich and rewarding experience, and they don't want to make a bad decision, right? So we're
Mhm.
helping consumers do that, and businesses scratch that itch. Step one is being found, right? This is everything we just talked about. On reviews, showing up in the right way on Google, Yahoo, Bing, all these places people are searching, right? Whether they're looking at Google Maps and saying, "What's around me? I really feel like a coffee." Or if you're trying to be the 3 Michelin star experience and you're having to compete with the best of the best, right? So once you're found, then you actually want to be selected, right? So show up in the right way. People have questions. They need to make reservations. They want to talk to your staff about this and that. So we enable you to have those customer interactions, right? Kind of the operational back end. And this is why we tend to work with a lot of people in marketing, operations, customer experience. So now you've been found, now you've been chosen. And then sort of the cherry on top here is this be the best concept, which is this world of customer experience. So it's gathering all that feedback, being responsive. We hope everything's perfect, but when it's not, we want to go back and get that right the second time around. And if you can create this flywheel of success, you can really start to dominate in kind of this experience economy we live in, where people aren't just shopping based on price or location or some of the more traditional commodities. They're actually shopping for the best overall experience. And if you can
Yep.
consistently deliver on that, you're going to have a really successful business.
Yeah, I agree with you on the experiential component to hospitality. I think today experience is what everyone needs. I think the ability to stay home and watch TV on a giant TV and use all these different platforms like Apple TV and Hulu and Netflix and Peacock and the rest. You really have to be on your A game to get people to come out and dine with you or spend some time with you, spend some money with you for sure. Carissa, let's play off what Travis said a little bit. When you look at the challenges that we face today with so many customer-facing brands, what has been successful for you to deal with the massive consumer input coming in from all these different forums, social media, all these different places, whether it be reservation platforms, comments on Instagram, on Facebook, on all the different social media, the TikToks out there now. What works best for you and your business and all of your brands?
Mhm. It's really helped not only for us to be found, that has been a major component, but also making sure that we're able to communicate our hours. We've had so many changes in this environment where we've had to change, very quickly on the fly. And that's been something that the Birdeye team has been extremely helpful with. And the platform really is built for that, is that we're able to build all of those listing updates, get them out as quickly as possible to every single source, and they're accurate and they're consistent across the board. I would say the second component would be the ability to be nimble enough to make adjustments with your customers and your guests. Is listening to that feedback. Is there a certain dish that they're looking for? Is there something
Mm-hmm.
within the experience for online ordering or takeout that they would like? One of the examples, our bread is very popular with a number of our
Mm-hmm.
restaurant locations, and we give that with every meal. There were people that were requesting to purchase it in addition to their meals, like to get extra, to get the bread and oil along with whatever we were serving. So that was
Mm-hmm.
something that, we were able to accommodate. Family meals is another example. We had great success through Easter holiday and through Mother's Day, offering family meals where they could pick up the whole meal. It was ready to warm up and it was already pre-cooked, ready to warm up and serve to their families. So much so we're getting requests for it now on a regular basis.
Awesome. That's great. And thanks for that. I think it's interesting. When I think about restaurants as opposed to other industries, I know when I bring my car in to get repaired, whatever they tell me, I agree with. I don't give the repairman any opinions about my car. I know when I go to the doctor and he tells me, do this or take this medicine, I don't really have any opinion. I'm like, okay, I guess. But it seems like for restaurants and hospitality in particular, I guess because everyone knows how to eat and knows how to order food, it seems like they're all an expert on the hotel business, the restaurant business, my friends.
Yes.
Yeah, and they know, they're like, Schatz, you know what, you should really do this, or you should really change that, or have you ever thought of that? And everyone has an opinion on restaurants in particular, more so than anything else. It's interesting. So on that note, it seems like customer feedback is up. I'm just looking at some notes here. 49% increase in feedback during the last 6 months, 42% increase on social media feedback. Why do you think customers are giving so much feedback more now than ever before? That's Carissa or Travis. Anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think with our guests, they see us act on it. And so when they see us act on it, they know that that feedback is taken seriously. One of the things that we put into place with our restaurant managers and our restaurants that are responding is, respond to the guest personally, use their name, reference things that they said in that review. And that continues your guest experience through from the dining experience to the review. And so people remember that. And I think they see that we're listening and they're willing to give us feedback.
Awesome. Travis, anything on that? Everyone has an opinion about restaurants.
That's true. Guilty. So Carissa's on this segment because her and her team are doing an amazing job. But I think that's not the reality for everyone, right? One thing that I've noticed is, we all walk around with computers in our pockets now, right? What do they say? The iPhone has more technology than we had to put a man on the moon, right? And so people will have these supercomputers and they're going to use them, right? And so what we see is an environment where the scale and complexity of interacting with your customers is just going like this. It's off the charts, right? And so if you don't have, a crack team like Carissa, plus also the technology to be able to aggregate, understand, and respond to that sentiment, it's going to be a downward spiral. Because the opposite of the success that, Carissa and Cunningham Restaurant Group is seeing is people don't feel heard. And so they get pissed off and they want to, talk about it more. And then they want to go to the other platforms and talk about it. So there's actually, a massive opportunity and risk with this. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, that's awesome.
One of the things that I tell our team, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead,
One of the
Carissa.
things that I tell our team is that oftentimes online reviews, that's in the moment. There are guests that are sitting in your restaurant that could be posting a Yelp review at that moment. And if it is a negative review, this is your opportunity to diffuse that negative experience and make it a positive one. So I even have our restaurants make sure I coach them to have Birdeye and all of the listing apps on their phones so that they get those notifications and they're seeing in the moment of service. If there's a guest sitting in that dining room that's not having a good experience, they can diffuse that right away and make it positive.
That's a great point. There's nothing worse than an angry Yelper out there because that could really turn off a lot of diners, 100%. Let's dig in, Travis. I want to dig into a little bit about the technology and the technology that Birdeye uses to be so incredible. NLP, natural language processing. Explain why this works and when it comes to understanding consumer sentiment. Can you give us a little bit about the technology and the NLP, et cetera?
Sure. I think really the key thing to understand here is manually it's just impossible to keep up with the volume of not just reviews, but every other interaction, web chats, emails, phone calls. It's just insurmountable. And so kind of the role of this technology and the sentiment analysis is pulling out what you need to know from this massive pile of information. So let's say, you're, a franchise restaurant group and you're looking at hundreds, maybe even thousands of reviews per month. It doesn't make sense to have someone go read all of those and try to come to a conclusion about what needs to change. So one thing our technology allows you to do is see what are the topics that are getting covered the most. What is the sentiment around those, right? Maybe it's pizza is getting covered all the time, but it's in the context of 1- and 2-star reviews and it's showing up with the word burnt, right? That's bad. We want to know about that so we can change it.
Right.
And that's one function. Then on the flip side, you can even start to use this more at like a business owner level and say, wow, I'm getting really, really positive responses on, the metropolis of Indianapolis. We actually want to go do more there because diners are loving what we're doing. People are saying, no reservations, right? There's more demand than we have capacity for. So once you start to understand kind of the market in aggregate, you can really make some pretty nuanced decisions about where to scale up, where to fix. And operations people and marketing people just absolutely love this.
It's actually been a resource for our culinary teams.
That makes a lot of sense. Sure, they can act on, if people are giving you a lot of feedback about something they really like, the specials they really like, menu items, maybe you elaborate on that, expand on those offerings, and the things that are not popular or people are giving negative reviews, you can certainly find out why that's happening. And I think also geographically, you can kind of what works in one area. I know that you guys have, we talked about, 34, 35 locations, and you're kind of in a few different states. I think sometimes the demographics change a little bit. What's popular perhaps in Indiana may not be as popular in Kentucky. And even the same concept may have to change a little bit. And that's great to have. What are your thoughts on how customer expectations, right now, expectations, I think, are extremely high. As we talked a little about, I think everyone's a maven. Everyone is an expert on restaurants and food. People's expectations are really, really high. In terms of the responsiveness from you guys, like you said, that you want to give feedback or respond, maybe even while someone's dining. Is that the norm, or is it a week later? Is it 2 weeks later? And what are people's thoughts about how fast you should be responding to some of their comments and suggestions?
I personally want to see our restaurants responding either in the moment or within that first 24 hours. I think you go beyond that, you've lost all impact of that experience and that review cycle. I think with negative reviews, it's one of those things of let's diffuse it. Let's get them back in. Let's make things right. Or if they're still there, do the same thing, but make it right. Find ways to also take some of these conversations offline, especially if it's something where someone's going to go network to network to network. Find a way to make the guest experience right through the course of that. I think, people are more understanding right now, but they've got a high bar for what they're looking for. And it's not just the food experience. The food is a given. The experience and the service that they're getting, that's the secondary. And I think in addition to that is the cleanliness, the safety protocols that the restaurant is taking. I keep reinforcing with our restaurants that you have to follow that at all times, because they're taking that cue. They're taking their comfort level from what they see around them in the restaurant. So if they see you doing the right things, then it becomes all about the experience and the food. And that's what we want it to be. That's where we excel. And that's what our proficiency is.
That's awesome. Yep. And how do you bring, you've got all these different brands, multi-concept, different brands. How do you bring and keep the authenticity of all these brands with so many concepts to your group? How do you keep that alive, that people don't get the feeling that they're in a big cookie cut chain? What kind of strategies are you using in the marketing area to make sure people feel that these are experiences, and when I go to that restaurant, it's a unique culinary experience?
I would say that we keep it centralized into those restaurants, and the restaurant management team, they're the ones responding for the most part. The only time that the marketing team is coming into play is reporting, making sure, holding them accountable, making sure that they did respond, coaching and teaching, or helping with responses that they may not feel armed or equipped to respond back with. And so we shouldn't be coming in with all of their responses because they're the ones with the guest experience. They're the ones with that direct impact. And if they're the ones that are responding, it's going to speak more to that brand, and it's going to speak more to the experience of what that guest had in the restaurant.
Awesome. And Travis, let me ask you something. For our listeners and viewers, if I have a multi-unit concept, or I have a few restaurants, maybe they're different concepts, is that something that Birdeye, is that something that I need to hire a marketing person? Is that something that a general manager in the restaurant can handle in that concept? To Carissa's point, I mean, they've got a lot and they've got a whole team. If I have 2 or 3 or 4 locations, is that something Birdeye could really help me with, and I don't have to go out and hire a whole team, and each general manager or manager can kind of handle their reviews themselves? Is Birdeye helping with something like that?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And the answer is, both, right? I think that we integrate extremely well with kind of more developed marketing teams, right? What we offer them is the ability to scale up to what we would think of as like big company marketing, but with, relatively small and lean teams. But at the same time, one of the founding tenets of the Birdeye product is it needs to be simple, scalable, and effective, right? And so that first one, simple, means even if you don't necessarily have a marketing background, you're going to be able to hop in the platform and use it because it feels like a consumer tool. So it's something you're going to be very comfortable with. It's intuitive. And the automation means even as one person, you're going to be able to have a pretty dramatic impact on your business. So we really see both. We see everything from, a VP of customer experience with a very well-defined role to, someone managing a few locations and really is just looking to take their game to the next level. And that's also kind of part of our partnership model, is we want to help people be able to do that regardless of where they're coming from.
Okay, now on to, I guess, kind of the elephant in the room. We talked a lot about the reviews and marketing. We haven't really talked or touched on COVID and how that's been affecting our business over the last couple of months. So with so many operators being affected, there's certain cities you can only dine outside. There's certain cities you can 50% capacity, 25% capacity. Carissa, how do you see things changing with the business model, and what are you guys doing to make people feel comfortable and confident in food safety, keeping your brand out there, your changes to the menu? Are you doing online ordering? Is it curbside pickup? And what kind of things are you guys doing, and how is your business model changing right now?
It's changing day by day and month by month as we go through this. We operate in 3 different states, and so and within those states, we even operate in different markets or counties and cities, and so that has led to us being able to. We've had to be nimble enough to respond and adjust with each one of those regulations that have come out, whether it be capacity requirements or masks and sanitation guidelines, all of those things. I think we couldn't have simply done it without technology, because even from the marketing side of the house, I had to operate on a skeleton crew through the course of COVID, and I didn't have a huge crew, a team to manage this. If I hadn't have had that technology to be able to push out menus, push out hours, have a partner like Birdeye, I'm not sure it would have been such a smooth experience. That I'm so glad that we had that in place prior to this going on, because then that enabled us to have a very good, solid ability to spin up who's open, who's closed, hours, restaurant information that guests needed, and they needed to know for them to be able to come back and visit us.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I think if one thing we've learned from this kind of experience with COVID is that hospitality has been very slow to adopt technology. I think the restaurant operators that have fared out or are faring out better. I think restaurant operators that haven't are scrambling now. Travis, on that note, are you finding that your inbound? Are you getting like a lot more people like, whoa, I've got to, I had to lay off a lot of people. How am I going to handle this? I need Birdeye because it's really being more efficient. And I don't know that I'm ever going to hire my whole marketing team back because, with technology like Birdeye, I can do it with less people and be more efficient.
Right. What we're seeing is really a lot of people had been on the sidelines for, even years saying, we know that technology is something that we want to go out and do, but the timing's not right, the budget's not right, whatever that blocker was. All of a sudden the world just decided on everyone's behalf. And now, to be in the game, you don't really have a choice. So technology is a central component of a successful hospitality business now. And if you hadn't done it yet, this was definitely the catalyst to go out and do it. So we're seeing a ton of people come in and say, maybe we aren't fully ready from a skill set standpoint, but, help us get started, get us the technology in, work with us to get going. And either we'll hire some more people or we won't. But either way, this is table stakes now.
Right. Makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
I would agree.
And let me ask you something else. So what trends do you see developing now in Birdeye? Are there some new features, new functions? Has COVID got your dev team to change some of its roadmap, or new things happening? Are there things that you weren't going to do that now you're doing?
Right. There's a couple big trends we're seeing. One is taking obviously the example of someone like Carissa who's doing a tremendous job already. There's definitely an appetite to have basically all of your omni-channel marketing in one platform and being able to connect with people instantly, deeply, and for the entire life cycle of that relationship. In the past, a lot of people in our space have focused on, the transactional interaction and maybe just getting there first. We want to get there first and be there for good. So that's one thing we're seeing on our roadmap is, increasing investment and being the one-stop shop for all marketing teams that, want to do business in this be found, be chosen, be the best model. And then the second trend we're seeing is just an increasing emphasis on simplicity, ease of use, being able to drive fast time to value. Because as we've noted here, the world's changing every single day, and we need to be adaptable and we need to be scalable to be successful.
Yep, that's incredible. I do think that in these kind of times, it's incredible. I think we see a lot of innovation, entrepreneurship. I think that one thing, the hospitality business definitely changed forever, and I think that operators have probably got 5 years worth of tech in 3 months, and so I think there's a lot of, if we can say it with taking it with a grain of salt, I think a lot of good things are coming out of this. I know there's a lot of hardship, a lot of pain, a lot of not so good. But I mean, if one good thing does come out of this, I think is the embracing of a lot of technology and innovation to really help hospitality owners not just survive this, but I think ultimately thrive this, because we will get past this, and that's going to be great. Listen, we're running out of time here. I want to thank everybody. Thanks for chatting, Carissa and Travis. We had some great feedback and great questions. Stay tuned right here for more on Food Tech 21.